We are live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another Trail Talk on a Monday. I'm your host, Aaron Shimons, and this week, Ricky is not with us, so we've got a little bit of a different show where we're going to run through the news, and then we have Tom Joly, pro runner for Kailas Fuga, coming in and doing Q&A. You guys have submitted the questions, and some of them are a little bit full of banter. So we'll get Tom in just a couple of minutes. Before we do that, we'll just thank XMiles for sponsoring the show. So xmiles.co.uk. Use the discount code or the discount link in bio. The code's I Run Over Mountains for, I think it's 10% off. So go and get your nutrition and stuff over there, and that helps us. But let's get Tom into the room, and then we'll run through the news. Tom, are you there?
I
Aaron,
can hear you. Can you see me?
there we go. I
Let's
can see.
try
Sure.
switching the camera around to the front. That'll help.
There we go. Wonderful. We had a
Nice.
gremlin already. Tom, welcome to the show. First off, how you feeling? A few weeks past UTS. We'll get into that later on, but how you going?
Yeah, good. Good. It's way past my bedtime, but I'm excited. I'm energized and ready to go.
Yeah, you've stayed up out of your bed for special trail talk, which I mean, if there's any occasions, it's this is the one. But we're going to run through the news and then we're going to run through some questions that have been submitted on Instagram and just reading down through them. I sent you a snippet of the topics rather than the questions. So there's a few curveballs in there and a few funny ones as well. And giving you the opportunity to do quite a few hot takes. So I hope you've got them queued up. But let's kick it off with the news, right? So Western states, it's in some respects it's gone to shit this past week. That was the news. Jim is out, Hayden's out. Um, Dan Green got Jim's ticket. What do you make of that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Western States getting crazier every year, isn't it? Like it's 4 weeks out, and everyone's already talking about it, giving predictions. The favorites, I guess, now have changed that Jim is out. I didn't actually see that news, so I didn't know what the injury is. He injured? I assume he's injured.
So there's no announcement that's come out. We kind of think it. We're assuming it was maybe the flare up of the knee after Chianti, but that basically all we know is that he relinquished his ticket by an email to Craig Thornley, and that gave the ticket to Dan. So it's basically the waitlist watchers figured out, oh, Jim's now handed back his entry. We haven't had no announcement, which I think is poor form. Like if you're at the top of the tree, let the people know. He clearly has a lot of fans.
Yeah, I suppose those like an athlete, you can turn it around quite quickly. So you want to hold on to that ticket until the last minute. Um, the fact that Dan Green's got it is interesting because obviously he'll be coming off Cocodona, right?
Yeah,
And like whether you can, talk about the Western States UTMB double. Can you do the Cocodona Western States double? Like that's a big one.
I think some people are going to be doing it, but Dan Green certainly has the fastest 100 miler out of double potential runners. I think in any other race he could probably still do well, but it probably takes a few dropouts for him to crack the top 10, assuming that his legs are okay, which I think they probably are. Like he's a young guy, he's running like 14-hour 100 milers or something, when they're flat. So I think he's still going to run a good race.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't put him like you say up in the podium, but potentially a top 10. If you've got the engine to run, that time at Cocodona, bit of rest, bit of speed work, and that's probably all you need. Like he probably doesn't need a lot of training between now and the race.
Yeah,
Um,
and as Patrick in the chat says, like Dan is already back at it. Like, and that was the plan. I think he said, "I'll take a couple of weeks rest or take it easier, and then I'll just hit some speed sessions because." Like the base, the volume, it's already there. He's not trying to build fitness. He's just trying to like recover and then sharpen up a little bit.
I think the same with Tara Dower, like coming off of Appalachian, then Canyons, 100K. Um, so like she's shown that like you can, at least while still relatively young, you can take that long distance endurance and still get a bit of speed back in the legs.
What do you think about David Roach and Papa Roach and all and all the chat we hear about him? Like the guy makes his own news and then publishes it. He's his own hype train. He's just shoveling the coal in every day, keeping that hype train going. Do you
Yeah, the thing
do you
with
think he's going to
David,
make
like
it? Do you think he'll make it to the race? Like some of the chat is his knee going to hold up? Like, what's your thoughts around David?
he seems to, oh yeah, he trains so hard when he does train. It's almost like he's rolling the dice on every one of these sessions, like smashing out like mile reps at whatever, like track paces. Um, and then just like watching his content, like I don't know if you watch his videos, you're
Some,
kind of watching it some, like I'm watching it and I click on it like the other day, not because I want to see what training he's doing, just because it's like it's slightly cringing and like awful. You can't like not watch it. Um, and I guess he's like one of those characters in the sport, like splits opinion a bit. He's obviously like a really nice guy. He's a great coach. He's got all these accolades, but he's just weird. I don't know how else to say it. He's just weird. Like saying like I love you and you're great to complete strangers on the trail.
did you see
Like
that? Did you see in the
it's
last
so
video
weird.
when he was on his last lap and he was running past hikers and like day hikers, they didn't have a clue. Like, what's this guy's running? And there's a guy running behind him with a camera, and everyone he ran past was, "You're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing."
You're
It's so
so
funny.
and they were like, yeah, thanks, you're amazing too. Like they didn't know what to say. It's just, I mean, we were talking earlier. Just imagine if you said that to someone on the street in London, like you'd probably just get smacked.
Yeah, they would think there's something wrong with you. But that's the thing. Like I think Americans are very good at being vocal and talking about things way more than we would be with like I'm Irish, but like the British kind of constitution, it's kind of stiff upper lip. You think it, you don't say it. If you have a bad meal in a restaurant in the UK, you complain about it to your wife or your friends, but you probably don't tell the
Yeah,
restaurant. In America, it's like the complete opposite. They're very good at expressing themselves, or way better than what we would be at expressing themselves. And then you throw into the mix David being this like hyper loving kind of unique personality, and this is what we got.
like sometimes in races, I don't know if you do it, but if you interact with people like at the aid stations or supporters, it can give you that extra boost. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah,
noticed that. But just like chatting and talking to people and getting that support. So maybe it's his superpower. Like we haven't, come across it yet in the rest of the sport with the elites, but maybe like interaction and feeding off energy
that's the
is like the next
that
the next one
but
percent.
that is the thing. Like everyone who's been doing well, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but everyone that's been doing well has had that positivity. They're smiling. There's something there that stops you from going to that dark place, or helps staying away from that dark place. And I think people have been doing that because they're trying to tap into some of that Courtney special sauce. So yeah, no, you're totally right. If you're positive, you get it reflected back onto you, and positivity is such an important force in like the 100 mile plus distance.
Yeah, it's that like that reinforcement thing, same as like if you smile, it makes you feel happier. So it's that weird trick. You can trick your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the American hyper positivity, awesome sauceness of David Roach, and then we flip the script to the other side and think about Killian on the low key flex long run, 80K, like flats for a minute per K, a couple of thousand meters of vert. Like he's letting the training do his talking. He's doing everything that Roach is doing, like the one percenters, on top of the Killian base. Like, what do you reckon about Killian going into States and comparing the two?
yeah, the Killian prestige and like his history, speaks for itself. Plus, like David is still relatively like a lower volume guy. So Killian is still doing like a lot more training. And I think as well, the thing with David is like I was looking at his results and he's a great athlete, but like his best performance recently that at least has been like ranked was like Javelina, and I think he got like a 890 or something on the ITRA index. The winner of like Western States, if you're going for that 14-hour time, that's like a 960 on the ITRA index, and like I don't think David's ever gone over that 900 like barrier. He's never raced in a world championship field of like Western States or CCC UTMB or world champs. Like he's raced some great races, but like Killian just has so much experience in world class fields. To Killian, this is just another race. Like he's on that start line, he's probably not thinking about a single competitor other than himself. Whereas if I was David, I would be like, getting, and he's like quite a fanboy of the sport, right? He'd be there being like, oh, it's Killian, I love Killian. He'd probably be like, stroking the back of his head or something weird, and getting distracted from like the actual race. So yeah, my take is like I don't know how he'll stand up in like that world class field. What
Yeah,
do you think?
the the thing about like because America's such a big country and the national scene is enough of itself, like it's comparing that to the world scene, it's big anyway. Like compare it to the British scene. And the British scene is it's small, but it's really competitive. But it's only the top in Britain that can go and compete at the world level. It's the same in America, but I think because of America's size, and the fact that they don't travel that much out to race, it takes the Americans to come to Europe a couple of times before they even go, oh shit, there's levels here. Because they're the best in their own backyard, but there are levels. And
Yeah,
David hasn't had the opportunity to race at that world stage. Like Killian, how many times has he run Sears and Al even? Like 11 times or something. So I think there will definitely be a lot of firsts for David this year at Western States, but States, Black Canyon, those are like the two, a couple of the competitive races in the US that are super competitive. There's so many races that aren't. And I would say Javelin is one of them, and that's one of his biggest wins. Leadville, none of the top runners go to that. You might have, like, if you go down past third, it's not someone that's
you
going to
don't know
compete on
who
the
they
world
are.
stage.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's like,
exactly.
who
Yeah,
is that guy? Oh, he can run a quick 100 miler. Great, but I didn't know his name, so um, I think David's going to get some shock at States. I think he'll still run well, but there's a whole dynamic of running with that field and competitors, and we don't know how that's going to go for him.
yeah. I think definitely like a top 10. Like on a good day, like he's obviously got the wheels. Like and he's training well. If he's not injured, no problems. Like he could get third. Like guarantee. Like I think he'll guarantee he'll be back at Western next year, just with the automatic requalification.
Yeah. So I put out a poll on the Trail Talk broadcast channel. Do we think Killian's going to run sub 14? Yes, no, or no, but he's going to run a course record, which I think isn't the course record like 14:13 or 14:14 or something.
Was that last year's time?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it 14:09?
Oh nine,
Is
right.
that
Um,
yeah,
so it's a low 14.
something like that?
Um, Overwhelming majority of people say yes, like they think he's going to run sub 14. I think that might be one of the things he's interested in. Initially, I thought he wanted to go there, and the challenge and the motivation was, can I beat Jim at Jim's course? What do you think?
I think like after seeing what he did at Chianti, it was like once he's in that slot, once he had the golden ticket, it was like he waited till the last climb and then he just dropped Vincent like and he opened up a gap like it was nothing. So I think there's a big difference as well between trying to win the race and trying to break 14 hours. Plus conditions you just don't know like how hot it's going to be. If it like, I don't think the snow's like as bad as it has been a couple of years ago. So no doubt it'll be like a hot race, but like you can't really bank on perfect conditions. You can't, you got to race the race as well because that field is so deep. You can't just say I'm going to run to splits for like a 13:59 because Roach, Danjo, so many like great athletes who are on that start list could all be running that same time. So like the racing dynamic is going to come into play, and that can really like unsettle your like strategy. And like, I mean, I experienced this just 2 weeks ago. I was running to splits, and then all of a sudden I was racing, and the next thing you know, my entire race just like fell apart. Um, so if it was me, like you can't doubt Killian, but I think he'll get the win, whether that's over 14 hours or under 14 hours is TBC.
Yeah, it's like for the likes of me and probably the everyone, like the number one priority is to finish the race, but the number two priority, if you're a competitor like Killian, is to win the race. Like the number three might be set a course record, but that kind of develops as the race goes on. Am I in a position now to do that? But you got to win the race you're in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've just seen Hugh just joined the chat. He knows exactly what we're talking about. I think he had the same thing at Madeira.
Right. So in terms of like your top contenders, who do you think's up there? We don't need them in position, but who's like the top three men in the race for you?
Uh, Killian won. Then I think Dan Jones two. Like he's had 2 years experience at the race. I feel like now as well he's like the GC. He's like that number one runner for Terex. Now that like Tom's gone over to A6, and I think it's like Dan has slowly been progressing year on year. Like his time at Tarawera just keeps getting faster and faster. And his time at Western States last year, 14:40. Like if he'd run that the year before, he would have won. You know, it's just like he's getting better and better each year, and I think like his time has come to go that one step higher and probably get seconds. Then I think like it gets harder as you go down for third. Could be Roche, could be Peterman, and then if you were trying to pick the top 10, like I have no
Uh,
idea.
it's the hardest
What's your
part.
podium?
It's the hardest thing ever is trying to pick 10 deep. I hate having to do that at States and at UTMB. It's like it takes me like a day just to go through it all, and then you have to stew on it for a week and then come back, and it's just way too much work for no no reward. But yeah, look, I never bet against Killian, but if Jim was in the race, it would like I probably would have favored Jim. Um, and I would never, there's no other race in the world I would say that. But I definitely pick in Killian for the win. Uh, and I'm glad you've mentioned Dan Jones because we don't hear his name mentioned enough. Like Dan Jones is probably the second best guy in the field. Like
Yeah.
he's competing around the world. He wins everything he's in. As you say, he has experience now and he just keeps getting better and better from already like an amazing level. So Dan Jones for me is just one of the best in the world right now. And, and
And who's
third,
third?
I don't know. Like I think third will be could be a surprise. You mentioned Adam Peterman. I just think like Peterman and even like Rod Farvard, like I would like to see more success or come back, like some races, a few races to prove that, the last one wasn't that bad one wasn't the start of a new streak. So I don't know, like it could be like a Seth Ruling or, it could be it just could be another guy. I don't think I could pick a name.
So I think Seth is like he's the 100K specialist. Like that is his distance. Because I remember racing him at Trans Gran Canaria, and like he did really well up to the 100K point, and then just fell apart. I feel like that extra 60K will be his undoing. So I know he's got a lot of hype going for him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like couple of names getting thrown in the chat there. Hans Troyer, Caleb Olsen, Dan Green. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pick. I mean, Caleb's probably my favorite out of that, but also Like I don't think I'd pick him for third. They're all names that are probably going to be barring Dan Green. They're probably going to be up there.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet money on it. It's too hard. It's too close,
That's
isn't it?
it. Like I can pick I can pick at the front of the men's race and that's about it. So like what do you think about the women's race? I'll throw out a few names that I think are favorites. Riley Brady. I think that they always do like a brilliant at every race that they enter. Tara Dyer, Fiona Pascal, Emily Hawgood is definitely another one of those. It's not like a Dan, but it's kind of like a Dan in her own way that she's showing improvement from already a really high level. It's her home course. What she did at Canyons, like she could be right up there this year, like just a couple places higher. So, what do you think on the women's race?
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about her performance at Canyons because like her time was so good. And if you compare like previous Canyons winners and times with their Western State times, there tends to be like a bit of a correlation. Um, that's a great shout. I was actually, I mean, for first, I was thinking Tara Dower. Like I said, like she's shown she's got the endurance plus the speed. Um,
And the grit.
Second, yeah, and the grit, yeah. Like she was covered in blood, wasn't she, at the end of Canyons? Um, Second, Fujao, because again, like I think she was second there last year.
Fast.
Sh- She's got the experience. And then third, I'm glad you mentioned Fia Pascal, because I feel like again she's just been on. She's one of these like on the back burner, not spoken about that much, not that big a name yet, but it's definitely shown she can win races. She can like win competitive races, and she's got like good speed over that like rolling terrain. And being a Brit as well, got to back her.
And she's out there doing the 2025's version of the trail running dirt bag, like sleeping in a tent on top of the car with her partner for weeks. Like she's essentially doing like a luxury Ricky Wynn Western States training camp, which I love. Like she's just like happy to be out there running, acclimatizing, eating in a camping chair. Like she's just living the life and it's probably maybe the only thing is I hope she doesn't overdo it in training.
Yeah, I think she's pretty good on that side of things. And like I was talking to her a few weeks ago, and she was saying like how she was umming and ahhing about taking the ticket, didn't have the money because obviously it's like an expensive trip to do. So yeah, really glad that she went for it and is out there.
Yeah, I saw Lavaretto put out a story this past week announcing who's going to race this year, and they put out one for Fiona, not realizing that she'd pivoted to the other important race that happens on the same day. So she was originally planning Lavaretto in her training. Um, Last thing on states I want to ask you about Free Trail Bend Unbreakable 2 as a result of Jim dropping out essentially. What do you think about the concept of the Unbreakable 2 and also that they bend it based on that?
I mean, I've watched Unbreakable, and it was kind of like it was iconic and great because it was 15 years ago, and it was like it was low key, low budget, and it just captured like so. Well, I say low budget, it like captured all the great parts of that race, and like Killian and his white spandex, and the rest of it. So I don't know, like I think there's a danger as well with athletes and filming, and like it can interfere a lot with preparation, and like you don't want that extra pressure as an athlete when you're going to like the biggest race of the year, or like arguably the biggest Western States there's been of all time, with like a camera crew in your face and following you around, and you're worrying about what you're going to say in interviews and not thinking about like the important things and how your race is going to go. So it's sad we don't get to see it, but at the same time, like the live coverage will be there, the stories, the Instagram, everything. We're going to see what's going to happen. So I don't feel like we're missing out on anything,
Yeah,
but it is a shame.
it feels like they could still do a decent movie by just identifying some runners and filming some content during the race and then piecing together with interviews after the fact. So Like, I don't think they needed to particularly can it, but they still could have put something out there. It didn't need to be an unbreakable two. Like that felt to me like the wrong way to phrase it. Like they could have
Mm.
coined it as something, in that unbreakable vein, but they still could have put out like a Western States movie, which would have done mad numbers because it's States and because like we all love good trail running content. So yeah, it's a shame that it's not that there's not going to be something out there, but yeah, it is what it is. So let's move on from Western States. We've got a couple more items in the news. Um, I'll skip over one of them because we've taken up a good bit of time in Western States, rightfully so. But Maxi race just happened at the weekend, and in the 60K, Ruth Croft and Ekaterina were first and second, and then in the men's field, Dmitry Metchev had another stinker of a race. He was 10th.
10th, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
37 minutes back. So like there's something going on with Dmitry, and it's unfortunate to see because normally anything he enters, he's at the front.
Over racing from last year. He did a lot of big races and he was winning and or like getting on the podiums. So I think it's you always pay for it the next season, right? I think that's what it is.
Do you like did he do more last season than any previous year?
I feel like I saw him on more podiums and he had more great performances. Um, and he raced. Which one did he do? Did he do Transvolcania this year or some of the other Canary Island races?
Yeah, he did that the last couple of years. Yeah. And then he did Cape Town last year as well. He did Cape
Yeah. So
Town the
that's
last
the
couple
thing.
of years.
You're finishing your season late, and then you're starting again in February or whatever for those early season races. And like, I just I've tried it. Like, you're not giving your body enough of a break, I think.
That's interesting, but it feels like that type of fatigue can take a long time to get over, and sometimes we see athletes having this dip and then they never actually come back.
Yeah, yeah, it's my greatest fear right now.
Yeah, and then in the 100K, young Hugo Deck, another Terex athlete, stormed it. I think he won by like 6 minutes, but Hugo is fast and talented, but big kind of weekend there for Terex.
Yeah, big for Hugo. I think he's won his last 5 races, including the Cape Town 100K. So like, he's definitely a one to watch for the future.
Yeah, I wonder what he has coming up this year. I don't know what his schedule looks like.
No, I don't know. I would assume he's either doing CCC or Worlds, but then the French team is so strong. I know he was at Europeans last year, so he might get, and I think he was 10th there. So that might give him, like, for the GB team, if you get 10th at one of those big competitions, you get like the automatic reselection. So it could be that he gets the reselection for Worlds.
Right. Last bit of news, and we'll rattle through this. Another week, another Mont Blanc speed record. Last week's Benjamin Veterans 4:54, bringing down the record from Killian's 4:57, and Skimo athlete and skyrunner William Buffelli just ran or skied and ran 4:43. So
Kailas Fuga,
fuck it.
Fuga athlete.
Oh, is he? I didn't realize.
Yeah. I didn't. I haven't met him, but yeah, he's Kailas athlete. Um, Yeah, it's like, that's insane, isn't it? You think, who else went for it? Who's the American guy
Jack
who
Kunzel.
tried to break it? Quenzo was like 2 minutes off, and then
Yeah.
this year the record got broken in the same. Was it the same week? I think it's the same week.
It was. I mean, they were about 7 days apart, I think. But yeah, Jack
Okay.
this month last year ran 4:59, and he had two cracks at it actually, and but that's just like 4:43 is not a micro improvement. That's like
Mm,
night and day. Like if you beat somebody by 15 minutes, you've annihilated them. So all I can say is love Jack, but good job he went to Denali because I don't think he was ever running 4:43. Like that's
no.
huge.
I saw with Buffelli, the guy who broke it the week before him, they actually did different routes at the top of the climb, which is quite interesting. So like he actually took the shorter, more direct route. So I wonder if if you get the change in the snow, whether that means it changes how you tackle it.
Yeah, there was a
Um,
massive drop some weeks ago, that massive storm that put down meters of snow. So I wonder now that all the heavy risk is past, are the conditions actually good over the
uh,
glacier now? So
okay.
that could be the case. Jack had left Chamonix and pivoted to Denali because he just thought the conditions weren't gonna come around. But he said like if you get the conditions, there's good there's lots of time to be had, but it's just like, is it ever gonna happen? It did. So on
Okay.
before we move on from that, William Buffelli, how long's he been with Kailas Fuga?
I don't know. Like Fuga's not that old as like a department for Kailas. So maybe he was with them before as like a ski athlete. But I know he was using like a combination of like trail gear and like skiing gear. So
Okay, interesting. I must have a look to see what shoes he changed into. Moving on to the bit that we've been trying to get to, and thankfully we're 34 minutes into the show and we are getting to it. We put out a question box to get questions for you on a range of topics, and the viewers delivered. So we've got questions about like UTS, this UTMB in Snowdonia, UTMB itself, racing in general. What else have we got here? About sponsorship, loads of questions about sponsorship, about your sponsor, Kailas Fuga, and then training, and then there's a few spicy fun questions that we'll come to towards the end. But let's set the scene. Like I want you to talk a little bit about your background and how you got into trail running. Like you were in the military and a triathlete as well. So spend a couple of minutes and just set the table. Who is Tom Joly and why are you a pro trail runner now?
yeah, so before I joined the military, it was like post university, completely like squandered my years drinking, partying, needs to get back on track. And so I like dove straight in the deep end with sport and signed up for an Ironman to get fit for the army. And that kind of like really introduced me to like endurance sport in general. Um, and I soon realized like I didn't actually want to join the army, but I needed to. I needed to get a job and get my life back on track. But I fell in love with like Ironman and triathlon and training, and that was 11 years ago, and that was like the light bulb moment where I was like, I know I want to be a professional athlete, thinking it would be triathlon. So like after I left the army, I'd done one ultra when I was in with a friend, and still hadn't really considered it to be like the route I was going to go down, but I just wasn't good enough on like the swim and the bike for triathlon. Like I went to Kona, I was just like miles off the pace to the front pros. Like I was there as an age grouper, and that was like the final moment where I was like, you know what, I'm way better at running. Um, like overall, I think I was like 30th within the pro field for like my run time, and I'd barely been running, so like wasn't that fast, but had that ability to be consistent, like a good speed when you're already fatigued. And then 3 years ago, like when I was in the army, I was saving up money, and then 3 years ago, I moved out to Spain and like used that money to set myself up here, um, and was like, no one else is going to give me a sponsorship or money or a deal, so like I've got to do this myself and like just go for it. And in 2 years' time, I might be completely broke, but I'll know one way or the other if I'm going to make it as a pro athlete. And like, fortunately, at the end of last year, uh, like the dream came true, and like I started picking up sponsors and finally like making it work as like a pro. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Sweet. What year was it then when you did that first ultra?
20, I want to say 2018,
Okay.
the Hadrian's Wall Ultra in the UK, like 112K or something.
Whenever I scroll back through some of your old races, like you did do long ass races. very early on. Like you didn't just start and build up through 50Ks, 100K, 100 miler. Like you've got a few anomalies in there.
Yeah, and I went from 100K to 250Ks basically, going into like multi-day, because I was thinking like, the longer the better. I'd seen Tom, who was also ex-army, obviously came third at Marathon des Sables, so I was like obsessed with the multi-day thing. And yeah, I kind of like stepping back a bit from that. I know I'm doing more 100 milers now, but yeah, somewhere between that 100K, 100-mile distance, I think is my sweet spot.
You're at the right distance now. The 100
Yeah.
miler is where it's at. That is the gold standard of ultra trail. So you found your home.
Oh, I'm glad we agree on that because there's far too much hype with these 100K boys. The big boys do 100 mile.
Oh
Yeah.
man, like do you even go into a dark space if you're running for 12 hours? And I don't think so.
I mean, you don't get your head torch out, so literally, you don't. Yeah.
I was looking through Killian's archive of resources the other day. I was actually looking for a template for a training diary, and I found this article that he'd written. It's 10 years old, it must be, and he had listed out short trail, middle distance, long, and ultra. And ultra started over 100K. Like long trail was 50K to 100K, which I thought was interesting. So that might be the barometer for me going forward. You're not an ultra runner until you're running over 100K.
Yeah, yeah, or like 50 mile. Like thing with world champs is you got that like it's marathon or it's ultra. There's no in between. Yeah.
Yeah, because a 50K is essentially like a trail marathon. Like it's that similar in stimulus, let's call
It's like doing a half Ironman and saying that you've done an Ironman.
it. We're sticking it to the to people without even realizing it. So, who was some of your early inspirations to like you've mentioned Tom Evans? What about in the wider sport? Like, were you watching like Salomon TV and going, what the hell is this guy Killian doing, or like where were you getting your inspo?
Yeah, it was Killian. Like because Tom was in the Welsh Guards, I was in the Scots Guards, so I was kind of like keeping an eye on what he was doing. And then, but it was Killian for sure. I used to do a lot of Nordic skiing in the army, and we'd be like watching, Killian videos in the mountains doing Killian things, and it just like completely blows your mind. But also at the same time, you see what he was doing, and it gives you a good appreciation of like the level you need to come in at. It's not just like maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. It's different now. You've got to be bringing your absolute A game and coming in at the top level.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique. It was a unique position where you could see the best of the best by a mile and what they were able to do. And I think that had to pull the sport on because people knew what to strive for. Like, look what he can do, and he is the best. Whereas if you're looking at, I don't know, if you compare it to like road marathons or something, you're just, oh, I have to run a little bit this pace compared to this pace. Whereas you saw the whole range of what Killian was able to achieve, and you could just see like I wouldn't be comfortable on that type of terrain. I wouldn't be able to do that terrain for that distance. I could maybe do it for a sky race. He's able to do it for a 50K, 100K, whatever. So it was a unique position within Salmon filming all that and just putting out all of this content. Um, just touching on the try thing before we move into some of these other questions. We see Eli Hemming, Heather Jackson, triathletes moving over to trail and ultra running, and they're coming in and doing well. Is it just like a unique athlete by athlete perspective or case here, or is there something? Is the cross training useful then, so they can transition across and do well?
Yeah, like Heather Jackson won the Unbound gravel this week or at the weekend, I
Yeah.
think. Um, and yeah, 100%. Like my biggest takeaway from triathlon is the power of the bike because you can just do so much volume. And like I had absolutely no aerobic capacity or like strength before I joined the army. And when I started doing triathlon and started doing the bike, like it just automatically saw huge improvements. And I'd be doing, 100 milers, 150, 200-mile rides at the weekend, um, and getting like a huge boost from that. And you could see it in your running times. Like for Kona or whatever, I'd be doing 50, 60 kilometers of running a week. Like, and one of those would be like a speed session. But I could still like bank like a 3 hour marathon off the bike. So you're already fatigued, and you've done very little run training, but you've just got that like amazing engine. So I think, yeah, I wonder if like the sport will continue in this like high speed, like low volume kind of trend that's going on, or if we'll start to see like more of a switch to like a bigger volume, bigger cross training, because that's certainly like what I like to do.
I like I agree with what you're saying, but see, whenever I was injured last year and I did that training block on the bike, every day chorus was taking the piss out of me because you can see like your training level. It was so
Mm,
hard to get it out of decreasing or maintaining. Like it was only whenever I could start running again and I was running plus biking that I saw the improvements. And that's why the bike's set up behind me because first off, it needs to be set up. Otherwise, like if it's to faff and get it set up, you don't do it. So
yeah,
I I'm trying to like do a bike, easy bike in the morning, maybe do a session a week on the bike, all on top, like all just extra time, just stacking extra volume. But it seems hard to just get the stimulus alone for me, just using the bike. I mean, is that the case, or what do you think?
yeah, yeah. How's the ankle, by the way? But yeah, I think as well, like you say, you need. I think as you get older as well, like that impact of running, it gets harder to reintroduce that um, to the legs. So you're probably right. Like you can't just sit on the bike and expect to then run 100 miler. How is the ankle? Is it healing?
I It's coming on well. Physio had said you need to do calf raises and then you need to be able to hop five paces in each direction, like north, south, east, west, and then we can start back to running. And this, like next week, he kind of was predicting that would be, but I'm actually going to go for a run today because from the weekend through to yesterday, it just felt like the flexibility in the ankle was all coming forward and increasing. And yesterday I was able to do all the hops. Like he had me doing like pulses on the feet were like hops but not hopping. And like, fuck's sake, this is shite. And the next day I just started like hopping in both legs. And then I was like, I think I could hop in both on like single legs. So I just started hopping. I'm like, right, okay, we can run now. So happy days. 18 days of no running. So
If it feels like when you're doing the rehab, like you're not doing anything, right? Like I had ankle surgery 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and you like start off with just like a band or like even no band, and you're just doing that with your toes. And you're like, you think the physio is taking the piss, right? But you got to start at that, like just retraining the connection between the foot and the brain. Yeah,
yeah, like I was when at the start of it, one of the things was okay, do like 100 calf raises while you're sitting watching TV. So you're like sitting down doing a calf raise, and like this isn't really a calf raise. I just feel like I'm lifting my knees up, but you're like doing 100 was about 3 minutes or something. It was like 2 minutes 40 of it. So I'm like, I'll do 3 minutes 3 times a day. And it felt like absolutely nothing. But, fast forward, 10 days and, I'm about to go for a run today. So happy days.
nice, good news. Yeah,
Let's move into some of the other questions. I want to talk a little bit. I've got a couple of questions on UTS, about UTMB, and just about racing in general. So we are flying through the time here. I'm sorry, Tom, you're not getting to bed in 15
fine,
minutes. We're
that's
running
fine.
on.
Let's
Um,
go.
I want to know, how would you rate UTS as a miler? it's always been known as a technical course. I remember Sabrina Stanley running the first year of the UTMB event and saying it was the hardest 100 miler she's ever done. She lives in Silverton, the home of Hard
Yeah,
Rock. How would
hard
you
rock.
rate it
Yeah,
in terms of technicality, difficulty? Give us your thoughts.
like everyone always says, like the last 3 years have been really hot, but it's like it's UK hot, right? It's like 20 degrees, 22, maybe 26 last year, I think. So yeah, it's warm and it's makes it harder for sure, but it's not like last 100 miler I did was in Thailand. Okay, like 32 degrees and like 80% humidity. Like you know what I'm talking about in Australia, right? Like that humidity is a total game changer because it doesn't go away at night.
Yeah.
So like whereas in Wales you've got like the nighttime temperature is cooler and like the humidity is not so bad. Like that's not the same at some of these like hotter Asian races. Um, Technicality though, yeah, for sure. Like it's got to be like the rockiest, one of the rockiest 100 milers, right, on the circuit. Um, so a lot of the night section is quite runnable though. I think people don't appreciate that, and it's actually the peaks and the big climbs during the day sections which are really rocky. Um, I would rate it. If I was going to say out of 10, like how does it rank? It would certainly be like a 9 out of 10. I'd put it on a similar level to like Chiang Mai 100 miler. Um, a lot more runnable than UTMB, and like the times show it, right? I did 22 hours and a half hours at UTMB. Didn't quite go to plan at UTS the other week, but it was a 27-hour race. You're out there for an extra 5 hours, which is 5 hours in the sun when you're already baked.
If you
It's
weren't a
totally different.
if you weren't a Brit, like it's a hard choice to go to UTS as a qualifier for UTMB. Like whenever the qualifiers are harder than the finale, it says something.
Yeah, and it's like it's hard to get to. It's quite hard to recce that race. Like, I think the great thing about it though is it's so hard, and I feel like myself included probably underestimates that race. So if you want a hard race, like go and do the 100 miler.
Yeah. I mean, would it not have been more sensible for you to do like Trail 100 Andorra or one of the races closer to home? Like the terrain would be more similar if you stuck around the Pyrenees, which is like the Pyrenees is hard. They're hard mountains, harder than the Alps. Why did you come to ETS?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was going to do a different 100 miler at Alsace, and my coach was like, "Well, I'll crew you if you do the UTS one." And I was looking at Mark Derbyshire's time from last year, and having raced against Mark before, I was like, I feel like I could probably have a nudge at that course record. And as soon as that thought entered my mind, it was like, "There's a challenge. That's quite a good one. Let's go for that instead." Um, to my demise.
Yep. Right, next question. How did your gear work out? And an anonymous question came in from Wiggly about why are you continuing to use a bum bag whenever they proved to be an inefficient mode of transportation? Like why are you using the bum bag in part of your gear setup?
So I like it's not like a Kailas vest thing, just vests in general. I just don't like vests. The weight sits on your chest. The buckles like restrict your breathing. They're hot. The bottles wiggle around. I've never got on with them. So I've always gone with the bum bag. Like the weight is better. It sits on your hips, which is like, your center of mass. And then I have a sneaky trick, which is I keep all the mandatory kit in the bum bag. And then it means I can switch out the hydration vest because it's just like your bottles, right? So it's just got my fuel and water in. And so when I come into an aid station, I can have a second vest preloaded and just switch it in and out. And you're not like faffing around at the aid station, packing gels or whatever. So save a bit of
Do
time.
they not tag the backpack at UTS like they do at UTMB?
Tag the bum bag. So I put the
Ah,
tracker or the marker in there because that's my mandatory kit, right?
sweet.
That's not going to come off. Yeah,
Okay. We're using the brain here. I love it.
it's the triathlete coming out here.
Um, how's recovery been from UTS and also like just blend into this? What kind of recovery protocols do you have? Do you think about X amount of weeks you expect from to recover from a miler? Like, what's your kind of barometers for recovery?
So this recovery's gone really well. Probably the best since 2022. And like I've spoken about it before, and you can read about it online on my blog, but like I've had ongoing iron issues over the last 2 years, and literally probably a month before the race, finally got like iron values that were showing an improvement. So I think a lot of the recovery has come down to like being healthy again and having those iron values back up. Um, so I was back on the bike within 3 days. Like typically after a 100 miler like that, I would probably not do anything for a week, but I felt good. Got on the bike, like felt better. Was running again a week later, and 13 days after the race, I was doing double threshold days between the bike and the run. So, like, really happy with how this recovery's gone.
Yeah, that's pretty quick to be coming back to it. And are you before you're taken into doing workouts, I assume you're like doing just some short bursts, strides and things just to feel the legs a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. And again, like the first interval session I did was on the bike, just because you're not getting that impact when the joints, it's like that week after where they feel recovered, but it's just that bit of stiffness, like in the knees and stuff. So you just get on the bike and you're not having any issues
I mean,
with that.
I mean, if you're out there for 27 hours, you're getting into proper ultra running at that point, and you must have had sore feet. Like sore feet happen after a day.
Yeah, sore feet to be like, and this is like a classic plug, right? But the shoes from Kailas, and I've spoken to you about them, the EX Pro, like hopefully you can get something for testing. But it's got like one of those soft TPU foams with a plate. Um, I like modify the laces a bit to make it even more comfortable. And compared to like other 100 milers I've done, finished, and like your feet would be wrecked. Whereas my feet, no black toenails or anything like that. So I feel like the shoes did a great job
The
there.
difference with that shoe from what I can see is it doesn't have this flimsy sock-like upper. It's still got like a proper upper, so the foot is protected, which was not the case with the Tecton X3, and hence why I fucked my ankle. So yeah, a lot of people kind of love that shoe, but its distribution. I think it's holding it back at the moment. Like I don't even know where you would get that in the UK.
Yeah, because if you buy it online, I think it comes from China. But that's something like Kailas are working on at the moment, thinking about stores in the EU and getting more distributors around Europe.
Yeah. So you touched on UTMB. A couple of years ago, you ran 22:25 for 16th. What are you gonna do this year to shave a couple of hours off that? Like, how are you getting into the top 10, getting up well into the top 10? What's your thoughts on where you can improve on that course? What do you need to change?
So ultimately, it just comes down to fitness. Like, I was coming off of Worlds, an 11th place finish at Worlds, building into UTMB last time. And like I said, like I think it was the start of the iron issues. Um, had a great training block out in France, but I was coming back from a real hole. So, like fundamentally, I just want to like you just got to be fitter. Like everything went pretty well, I'd say last time. Like could improve fueling. Like I feel like the shoes from Kailas I'll be using will be faster, but I'm looking to take an hour and 25 minutes off. Like I want to try and target 21 hours. I've done some pretty extensive like analysis for the pacing, and like my pacing in 2023, it wasn't bad when you compared it to the other top 10 and 20 as like percentages. And so it's just like small refinement there, but ultimately, like I say, you want to take an hour and a half off. It's not going to happen with like faster aid stations. You got to be fitter.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to take time off that is to improve a bit of everything.
Yeah, and like I know where I had like big lows, so like where I actually did lose quite a lot of time. It was the same at UTS. It's like coming into that second morning when you haven't been eating at night, you haven't been drinking because it's colder, and you're like starting to, go through that fatigue the second day. That's always where I have a low patch. So there are specific parts I know where I can shave off time. And I've recce'd the race route twice, raced it once. There's a lot of potential in that back half. Like if you just don't cook yourself in the first half, like Josh was a great example last year. I was with Josh at Courmayeur before I died. He was having a terrible race, like nearly 10 hours to Courmayeur. He should have been out of the race, right? And then by the finish, he's like challenging for that top 10. So if you save the legs, you can have a great like back half.
Where were your lows in 2023?
Just before Champagne Lac, probably a big one, and then a real like bonk moment on that steep climb out of Trion, that like second to last climb, just like 30%, 40% gradient. You're in the midday sun, and yeah, if you haven't got your fueling and your pacing right, that's probably where you're really you're gonna know about it.
We do have questions about fueling and training as well. But so let's just throw in one of the fueling questions. Like back in 23, I think probably 80, 90, it was certainly under 100 was the garbage that people would have been talking about. And it wasn't even, front and center news. Going into this year's race, I would say everyone in the top 10 is going to be over 100 grams of carb, certainly during the daytime. What's your thoughts on where you were then and where you will be this year?
Yeah, I did like a spreadsheet with all the nutrition in, and with the Coke that I was drinking, I managed to average 99 grams an hour. So pretty much bang on that 100. Um, but I was also eating like real food. So I'd have like a wrap or a sandwich in my vest at the crew checkpoints. So I could eat that on the go. So that was actually, I was actually probably over just like the 400 calories you're getting from the carbs. So if there's one thing I'd probably do more of is more of that real food and keep the carbs the same, because I think you can push the carbs higher, whether you're absorbing it or not is like that, that question. So for me, like I can eat as much real food as I can swallow. And that just settles the stomach. It keeps you full, keeps the energy levels like really balanced. And then you just take those carbs, to give you that extra boost. So that's my plan.
I heard everything you said, but I just have to ask this one question. Was it a British sandwich or was it a continental sandwich? Like, what type of sandwich were you carrying in your pocket?
Avocado and like salami in a like a burger
Burger
bun,
bun.
which was terrible because it
It
was like
sounds.
dry and fluffy. So like I remember at Champagne Lac, I like literally inhaled that bread. It went straight into my lungs, and then I coughed it back up, and it came straight out of my nose. I was nearly sick. Yeah,
You were on to a winner there with avocado and salami, and then the burger bun. I can just imagine it was out of like Super U or something.
exactly. Yeah, like a €4 bun is actually a 4 cent
And
bun. Yeah, it's terrible.
it lasts for 2 years if you don't open the packet.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
All right. What do you think about the likes of the World Trail Majors? And, it's come onto the scene as this new thing the last couple of years. Swiss Canyon Trails is this coming weekend. Like, is it a series that you think about? Do Kailas Fuga have any thoughts about World Trail Majors? Are there like talk a little bit about that as a series and if there's any incentives there?
Yeah, I mean, from an incentive point and like athlete sponsor bonus point, like a lot of those races are in the bonus list, both for like Kailas and from bonus schemes I've seen for other brands. Um, and they're in that like middle tier, so they're not like a UTMB or a World Champs, but they're in that like second tier down. So like still good prize money for the big races like Madeira, or for Transgran Canaria, or Hong Kong 100. They're all up there.
Yeah.
And like I spoke to Miguel, who's obviously a Kailas athlete and won the series last year. and like I think he said he got paid pretty quickly after he won the series, and like 12,000 euros I think for winning the series, which is like it's not to be sniffed at, right? But it's like what a Courtney, what a Jim, getting as like their base salary in a contract. For them, they can get more in like a bonus for just attending Western States or attending UTMB, I would guess. So I think for the big name athletes, it's still small fish. For like lower level athletes like myself, it's still like a worthwhile cause.
But it feels like it's easy money because it doesn't have the some of the races are very competitive, but there's so many races in the series now. And is it like your three best or two or three best? Like,
Two best, and it's based on
yeah,
points. So, like you say, like Miguel won with a first and a second. He didn't even have to win two races.
yeah. So you could
Um,
strategically go after the series win by picking your races and banking
yeah,
12 or 15 grand, which is like,
yeah.
for someone trying to make it in the sport, I think that could be like a third of working salary for the year or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least like the biggest prize money race I won was 8 grand, and that was big. Like, so 12 grand is not to be sniffed at for a pro trail runner.
Yeah. And so that comes in the World Trail Majors, or some of those races at least, they're coming into like a middle tier in terms of sponsor bonuses. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. For the big ones,
Yeah. Moving into some questions about sponsorship and signing with Kailas Fuga. Do we say Kailas Fuga every time? Because Kailas is like the parent company, Fuga is the trail division, right?
I just refer to them as Kailas, or sometimes I just refer to them as Fuga. Like,
If you can't
uh,
offer clarity here, how the
uh,
hell will I?
okay. Yeah, okay, let's set the bar. So I think Fuga would be, it sounds better as well. Like Fuga is short for full gas, which I quite like. So go with Fuga.
Okay, Fuga, perfect. And I didn't even know that it was a shortening of full gas. So no, like it. Did you like how did the deal come around with Fuga? Did you seek out a sports agent? Talk a little bit about how you got that deal and how long it took, and what else, ever anything else you want to share around that?
Yeah, contracts. Like I did a blog post on this, so quite passionate on this subject. But yeah, the deal with Fuga came about at the end of last year after racing in Thailand and met the like athlete manager out there who literally said I was laying in like a messy pile at the finish line with my feet in rag, and she was like, "Do you want to run for Kailas?" And I wasn't thinking about running, anytime soon, but that was it was a nice moment to have that. And within a month, I had things like signs and was on the team. So that went through pretty smoothly. Last year, weirdly, I had like three other offers, despite it not being like a great performance year for me. And like, I can't talk about the Kailas figures, but obviously I can talk about the figures for the offers I had, which I didn't take. And so like one was from Ultra, and that was for like 8,000 euro base salary plus two for expenses. Um, One was from Vibram, which was 10,000 euro, just like flat. Um, and then the other one was Kiprun, which was I want to say 13,000 euro salary and two expenses. Like it was about 15 in total. But that one came through an agency, and that was when I was working with Santara Group. So they would have taken 20% of that. Um, but it gives you like a ballpark figure. Like I don't have to tell you what Carlos is paying me, but it gives you an idea of like the level of athlete of like where I'm at, and like for other athletes to compare like what they should be asking for. And again, like if you go on my blog, you can find a kind of like an equation or more advice on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what I would suggest is if you want to post a link to your blog in the comments section after this live has been posted on the feed, it'll show up in
Cool.
yours and mine as you'll be a contributor on it. And then talk a little bit about the performance bonuses. Like obviously we don't want to talk numbers about Fuga, but what can you say about the performance numbers on the other contracts? You don't have to single out the brands because All three of them, I'm sure,
Yeah,
are similar.
yeah. I've seen like bonus schemes for Innovate as well, which were way lower and way less deep as well. Um, I think like again, like the Ultra one was probably a bit lower than like the Kailas one, and it really depends. I think with certain brands like Kailas is all about 100 miler, 200, or like those big races like Tour or Swiss Peaks, and so they like value longer distance races more than the shorter ones. So less focus on the Golden Trail and more focus on 100 mile plus.
Yeah, let's chat a little bit about Fuga because whenever I saw it that brand the most was whenever I was doing the media coverage and crewing at Tour de Jean last year. And obviously they're the sponsor there. They sponsor the Tour X as well.
Yeah,
And I got a backpack as part of like the media pack, and the quality of it and the functionality of it was great, but so many of the runners were using the shoes, and it felt like from what I could see, like did they land in Europe in Italy? Because the only athletes that I could see in Fuga shoes were either Asian or Italian.
yes. So Donatello is like he was like the first figure athlete, obviously Italian. So I think that's probably the link they had, and they have a big link with Franco Curly, who's obviously course record holder at Tour.
Yeah.
Um, and like so, like we did our team camp in Italy this year, so there's like a strong Italy connection. Um, you were there last year, which means you were there for the Martin Perrier, also Kailas figure athlete
Yes.
slash debacle.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. There were like letters written to Francois, right, accusing him of cheating, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
I think something to do with sleep deprivation and the guy having a pen and pencil available to him. So, I mean, it felt like at the time maybe his crew should have stepped in and,
yeah,
um, done the right thing or helped him out there. It was a bit of a weird one.
yeah. I mean, easy mistake to make, right? Like film crew running along, and you think he's getting outside assistance. Like, yeah, like you said, don't do anything until you've slept for 24 hours, right?
Yeah, and for the viewers that don't know, so Martin was at the front of the race, Francois was at the front of the race, Salomon had crew or film crew filming Francois, and through the process of probably sleep deprivation, Martin accused Francois of receiving assistance from the film crew, and they were essentially like pacing or crewing on the move, and it all came across kind of really strange. Um, and to us observers watching the race, it just felt like there was a crew there filming, and they weren't filming like the whole of a section, which is 50K. They're just getting a bit at the front and a bit at the end, as I was even doing that too. Like you run back 5K and catch some content, you run up 5K and catch some content, and they were essentially just doing that in a more professional way. So it was kind of a weird one. I didn't actually clock that he was a Fuga athlete. Is he still a Fuga athlete?
He's still a figure athlete. I mean, yeah, he's had good performances at Tour.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's been very good at that race. Is it like the Tour de Jean? Do you fancy doing a loop of the Aosta Valley? Is it something for they would tackle?
The same way, like like Francois now probably. I don't. Maybe I'm too. I shouldn't say it. Like nearing his twilight years of racing, you go to those longer distances. So maybe 5 6 years down the line. Yeah, I haven't. I don't feel like I've mastered the long 100 miler yet. Like I want to nail like the 100 mile distance before I
I'm
think about moving up.
I'm not asking you, do you want to do it next year? I just mean like at some point in the future,
Oh
is it a
right.
race that you
Okay. Okay.
think
Okay.
that would be a cool race to do
Oh
at some
yeah.
point?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. 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 100%.
What age are you, by the way?
34.
34. You can come at that, and as you
Got
say, like
years.
6+ years is, I think, a fine enough time to graduate to 330 kilometers. Um,
Yeah,
it's like goodness knows, like in 6 years' time, what tour is gonna be look like. Because think of all of the
yeah,
athletes that are kind of going past the 100 mile distance now, or graduating past the 100 mile distance, and a percentage of
yeah,
those will go to something like tour. Like I
yeah,
predict that that is gonna become like in 10 years' time, that'll be the UTMB of the whatever we're gonna call that
yeah,
distance.
yeah. The mountain
Yeah.
ultra.
Yeah. So like, what about the shorter tour races, like the Tot Dret, the 100K, and then there's the 100K and there's the Tot Dret, which is like 120, 130. These are like super hard races. I know so many people that have run Tot Dret and then said, "Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna do tour. That was just too
Yeah,
hard, and it was only the 130K last section."
yeah. I think Jack Scott, like, he took a nap when he did it, and like I think he was kicking himself. I remember reading his post, but like he had to take a nap on the 130K. Yeah,
It's like 130K, but 170K of vibes. It's definitely you getting more than your money's
it's
worth,
you
I think,
getting
for that.
exactly. It's a good value entry. Yeah.
Um, Coming back into like the pro athlete talk, like what do you think about like your financial security as a pro athlete? Obviously, the sport is growing, and you're part of that wave right now. You're like part of this first wave of athletes making it their living. Like, what do you think
Yeah.
about this period that you're going through, and then your financial security in 10 years? Like, what are the thoughts there?
I mean, I'd say it's currently shite. I wouldn't be able to do this unless I'd like, have prepared and saved as much money as I did, and luckily to have sponsors from like concrete company, from Kailas, from a nutrition partner, Sturka. Um, like it's great where the sport is going. Like right now, it's still, if you're not at that very tip of the spear, like you are just struggling to like make a living from the sport. I think in the same way, like triathlon 10 years ago, there was money, right? And if you were at the top, you could make a good living. Now we see like the T100, you see all these series. There's more money in the sport now. You can make like decent money even if you're not like the top 1%. So give it 10 years and I think we'll see similar things.
That's 10 years too late, mate.
Yeah, I'll be out of the sport by then. Yeah,
You'll
I'll be a
be
has been.
you'll be trying to crack top 10 at tour at that point.
I'll be on Swiss Peaks 700 by then. Yeah.
Yeah. And like whenever you think about racing, do you feel like you're gonna be a guy that continues to race, or are you, I'm a pro, and when I'm done racing, I'll figure something else to do? Or do you see yourself as being that, granddad who's crushing the mountains peaks?
Which 70-year-old is racing Western States? Michelle Paletti.
Yeah. He he
So
he's
who
top
knows?
top 70-year-old in every race that he
Top
that he
rank.
did. And
He's he's
I
going to win.
I left this out of the news section because we had too much to cover. But a week after he did UTA 100K and finished top of his age group in, I think, 18 hours, which for reference, he beat a lot of 20 somethings. He beat
Yeah,
a lot of 20 somethings. He went and did the 50K at Mountain Ultra Trail, the UTMB race, and won his age group in that too. Like, okay, it's a small age group, but he's,
yeah.
I wasn't doing no 50K the week
He's
after
he's
UTA.
he's 70. He's 70. There's no way my old man would be running, more than 5K, let alone 50. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So it's really impressive. But like as I've said to my wife loads of times, like living in Chamonix, the mountains make you strong. You don't have to do
Yeah.
anything else but live there. Like,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm on a 20-30% slope. You just carry the shopping up the hill. That's like a
yeah.
workout. Yeah.
Let's chat a little bit about training. We're keeping you out of your bed here, but there's some good questions to go. Whenever you think about like UTS and the miler, give us your like where are you thinking about key sessions at the start of the block and then at the end of the block? Like I always find interesting the progression, like where do I start? Because a lot of people think about, we're starting at around like 6 by 3 minutes, and you hear these types of sessions, and then you're progressing to, more very long lactate intervals. Give us some chat about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been self-coached until this year, and I would always do like a pretty typical big base building block um, early out and do a lot of strength training. Like I'd gain a lot of weight through the winter. I'm quite happy doing that because I know by the summer I would have lost it again, and it just gives you that like extra reserve you'll need for the 100 miler particularly. Um, so yeah, going from like a general aerobic base into quite a lot of threshold work. So I'm a big fan of that, like I guess what you call like that Norwegian method. It's just below that like 4 millimole of lactate because you can do a lot more
Yeah.
volume at that intensity. This year has definitely changed because got a coach, Doug Stewart, and he is like we've had a lot more focus, particularly with like the previous health issues of like not doing too much volume and doing a lot of VO2 work and sprint work and like plyos and drills because it builds that efficiency and like robustness, and that also translates really well to the 100 miler because if you can still move well after whatever 80 90 miles, you can still shuffle it into the finish and you're not like a broken wreck. So both work, right? Like there's numerous ways I think of doing it. It just really depends on the kind of athlete you are.
So what was like some of the final sessions like for before UTS, before you started to taper?
Um, Final sessions would be like weighted hikes. And what else are we doing? Like longer intervals with a combination of running. So like 20 seconds running up a steep climb, 20 seconds power hiking, 20 seconds recovery. And you just do that basically from the bottom of the climb to the top of a VK. So you're getting in 1,000 meters of similar to what you do on like Snowdon for that race, but you're like switching up the tempo between that like running and power hiking. So it's quite specific to like 100 mile racing.
That's quite a unique session. I haven't heard or seen that type of thing programmed before. Is this unique to, isn't it, is it TMR coaching?
TMR coaching, yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's unique to him, but it's certainly like a session I would agree with. Like, because on these long climbs, you're not always running, you're not always hiking, right? You're just like the shuffling in between and transitioning. So it works quite well.
Yeah, because you've got such variations in gradient when you're on a climb, and some of them you got to run, and some of them you got to hike. Otherwise, you're just burning matches. That's an interesting one. I might try that. I'm going into my first period in a while where I'm uncoached, so I parted ways with my coach at the start of the taper for UTA. So well, I thought it would be already
It's
programming my.
like he was watching from above, and like he probably put the rock under your foot that caused the ankle roll.
Pushed me when I was
He was yeah,
that second sprain was
that
willed onto me.
was him. Yeah.
One of the questions that came in from the viewers was around like doping in the sport. What sort of percentage of pro trail runners do you think are potentially on the juice? Like it's hard to know, but you got to assume that some people are doing it.
I saw, I think it was this stat from age groupers from Kona, and they had done testing. And obviously, they're not like taking names, it was just to do like what you're saying, a sample. And I think it might have been 16% might have failed. And like some were for like EPO, which is now like a thing in age group triathlon. And then other things were just like contamination, probably from supplements or whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar um, amongst like the total field of athletes. Um, Whether like what percentage is deliberate and what percentage is accidental is obviously a difficult hot topic.
Yeah. Well, like I think in age group athletes, it's probably going to be higher because maybe the disposable income
Oh yeah,
is there.
and like recreational
You've
drugs as
also
well.
got
So
the
yeah,
like just because you are able to win a race, like doesn't mean that a 40 something is going to be feel less competitive the results are less, but they still might have that competitive drive to compete. And if there's the ability to buy supplements that makes them compete better, even if it's just, a couple of, it might be 100 places more, they still might be 100th at a UTMB or whatever it is. But like the thought of using EPO is just that's crazy because not only are you're actually selling your health for like a pointless position. Like
yeah, yeah.
to do that as
If
an
there's
age
money
group athlete's
involved,
weird.
yeah, it makes sense, right? If there's like money or contract involved. Um, but even then, like you got to be willing to risk everything for money. And I think with trails like such a Western, like dominated sport, people have jobs, people are well paid. The incentive for like a 10 grand contract, like, what's the point in ruining your career and your name for that amount of money? If you're, of course, like the argument is if you're an East African coming into the sport, there might be more incentive. And that certainly seems to be the case with like road running and the marathon.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the thing, like I think the only pro athlete that was ever, maybe pro is the wrong term, but the only pro runner in UTMB that's ever been caught doping was the South American guy. I forget his name, but obviously that's essentially a third world continent, and the incentive to strive to get out of that in the same way that the East Africans are, it's financial, there's financial incentive to perform.
yeah,
So yeah, it's
yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah. I mean, we haven't even got onto the skiing thing, but like that's exactly what we're talking about.
Are you wanting to get to the same thing? You can say whatever you
Well,
want. I
it's
have no
hard. It's
questions
hard
about it,
not to,
so
isn't it?
so bring it up.
It's like think I saw a hashtag for Zagama that was clean athlete with a ban. That was the hashtag he used. I thought it was super interesting. Like clean athletes don't get banned, right? Only doping athletes get banned. That's like what WADA and the French anti-doping agency are there for. He took the plea deal, if
He
we can call it
accepted
that.
it, so
He
it's
accepted the responsibility that he was in the wrong. To then say that you're a clean athlete with a ban, uh, it just stinks. It feels wrong. Like, except like even if there was a mistake, you can't, stick with that line, in my opinion.
I mean, if we're being factually correct, it was guilty athlete with a ban.
Get Yeah, it was exactly like, or just call it what it is. Like, if it was undeliberate, call it like non-deliberate doping. That is very common within like WADA. It happens quite a lot because of the sensitivity of tests. Like, I think everyone would agree with that. No one would have an issue. But to call yourself clean is it stinks.
As Ricky said last week on the show, uh, how are you 14 or 16 minutes off your PB? Like it didn't look very good.
Oh
If Steen had to
yeah,
come back to Zagama and run sometime, 5, 6 minutes off his PB, you're rusty. You talked about having anxiety of going back racing, and it overwhelmed him. But honestly, like that post about the anxiety and how he felt terrible during the race
yeah.
might just be the get out clause of a bad performance.
Yeah, it's such a hard one. Like the weird thing is like I don't think I've seen a negative comment against Steen in any of his posts. So I don't know where that anxiety is coming from if people are all supportive of him. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine coming back to pro sport after basically 2 years out? Like you're not going to be the same athlete. So I don't know if you can use that against him or not.
Yeah. I'm not
Tough one.
using it against them. I'm
Tough one.
just posing the question. We just
Yeah, of course. We'll just leave it out there.
people will make their own minds up
They'll reach their own
about that.
conclusions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
in a very awkward segue, what type of supplements do you take on the daily? Like we talk about, you've mentioned about the iron deficiency.
Yeah.
That's not something that we hear an awful lot about in male athletes. I never even thought that that was maybe an issue, but we know that like women need to supplement with iron. So what's your
Yeah.
supplement protocol?
Literally just iron. I mean, I tried creatine, doesn't seem to do much. Yeah, just I was taking vitamin D because I had some dental work done. Apart from that, just the iron tablets. But it is amazingly common. How many men and women in the sport of like ultra trail have iron deficiency, and this is something that's really come to light in like the last year for me. Um, Pretty much all of my friends that I know in the sport have iron deficiency, or a lot of pros I've heard anecdotally have had issues over the years. So I think it's one of these like lurking issues that people are becoming more aware of. Like, get yourself tested, because yeah, believe me, you don't want it.
What are the markers for that? And is it just the blood? Is it just ferritin levels that you're looking in the blood test? Is that is that the markers?
Yeah, like you want to do a full panel of like your red blood cells, your ferritin, plus your like blood iron, because all of those things can vary, and tell you like a bit of what's going on. Plus, like get your B12 checked and your testosterone, because all of these things can like have interactions. But and you want it higher, like because those measurements are based on population data, right? So when they say ferritin of 12 to 50 or whatever, that's actually way too low for particularly an endurance athlete.
Yeah.
You want it to be 50 or higher. And if you're going to altitude, you want it to be at 100, because otherwise your body's just not going to be able to adapt to the stimulus.
It's like thinking about the RDA, like the recommended daily amount of vitamins for like the general public is not the level that an athlete needs to be at because you're just
Exactly.
burning more everything. So you need more
Exactly.
calories, you need more carbs, you need more higher vitamins, higher iron levels. Just like those values are there for like wee Bobby that's sitting watching TV all day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
Uh,
good advice. Eat more than you think you need as well. Yeah.
It's interesting, like that you say your protocol, and it's horribly simple. And Ricky and I have talked about this loads that um, it's the people like yourself who are focusing on putting in consistent training and not and spending all of your time on the value, not spending a large chunk of time on this 1% stuff. Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm taking protein and creatine and like I swallowed 6 tablets this morning before coming onto this call, like 2000 milligrams of omega-3, turmeric, in the afternoons I'm taking magnesium,
You must be buzzing.
fucking hell. I tell you what, it's not making me quicker, but might make it might make me feel maybe there's placebo effect, but that placebo effect probably has to be 50 quid a month.
Do you, yeah, expensive. Do you worry, like, do you get them tested, or like, are they batch tested and stuff? Do you worry about that
Uh,
kind of thing?
I mean, I don't really have to. I tend to buy certain brands that I know are good on the test. Like there used to be a
Yeah.
website called Labdoor, and they would
Yeah.
test, all like like say the brand now.
Yeah.
They would test that and rank it. So as long as you're going like on the omega-3s, I'll do like Nordic Naturals is always up high on the tests, which means that you're not really getting much or any your rancid oil, which is apparently prevalent in fish oils. So I'll just buy reputable brands, which means you're not going on Amazon and going, give me the one at
Yeah.
8 quid. You're buying the one
Yeah.
at 28
Yeah.
quid. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm focused on that 1% too much, maybe. But that's what you
Yeah.
do. I mean, that is what you do whenever you are just trying to be the best version of yourself. but the engine isn't as big as somebody else. Because that's what it comes
Yeah,
down to. Like performance is 99%. What's your engine? What's your capacity to
yeah,
grow
I
your
agree.
engine?
I agree. And like that's why you should just do the extra 10%, just do more training rather than worry about, okay, yeah, heat training, altitude, they have big impacts, but it's just like you say, it's not as much as just being fit.
Yeah, it's the whole volume thing, like volume and volume of intensity. The more you can handle, the better you're going to get. But what I actually, on a personal level, like if I jump back a couple of years ago, I used to be able to go through a training block, and maybe it would be, in terms of just running, it would be 12, 13 hours at the start of a block, and I would get right up to like 20 hours a week, and maybe just over 20 hours a week whenever I was doing things like Bigfoot 200 in 2019, and back when I was doing UTMB in like the years pre and post that. But then with my last two coaches, they wanted to bring my volume down and increase my amount of intensity. And I gotta tell you, like I find it hard to put in extra volume now. Like I'm getting tired, uh and I'm maybe only doing, I think I was maybe peaked at like 16 hours before UTA miler, and it's still maybe it may be starting at 12 and getting to 16. So there's not much of an increase in volume. I'm doing more intensity, but I'm not sure. I haven't got slower in 10 years in terms of like to run a 5K. Uh, is that, am I offsetting age or what? I
Mm,
have no idea what's happening, but I just want to go out and run
mm,
more. So
yeah,
maybe being
no,
self-coached,
I'm the same.
I'm just gonna go
Yeah,
back to running 18 hours a week and seeing how that transpires.
yeah, yeah. Literally, I think I pissed off my coach this morning because I put a whole lot of volume into the program, which was not approved. So I'm in the same boat.
My last coach would have had me only doing like 3-ish hour long runs and stuff, and I was coming from a, experience of running. Like I used to be trained by uphill athlete, and we would go and do like back-to-back days, and maybe an 8 hour day and then a 5 hour day, and it was
Mm,
all under what they would have called the AET, which is like it's under a little bit under your top of zone two,
uh,
so it was super
yeah,
easy, and you might get
yeah.
up the next day and you were tired, but you could get out and still
You could do
move.
it and do it again, right? You can still
Yeah.
do it again. Yeah, I think that's the benefit.
So yeah, we're going back to the good old days, and let's hope the body can take it.
It
Let's
just goes in cycles. It just goes in cycles.
let's wrap it up with a couple of short funnier ones. First off, we had a lot of questions about the mullet. Mate,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
not the same without the speed mullet, so we need to bring the speed mullet back. Is this the
it's coming.
early signs?
It's it's coming. It's coming back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
How
coming back. Like it keeps the sun off my neck out here in Spain.
are
So it's practical and
are
fashionable.
you promising that the mullet will be fully here, like shoulder length mullet for
Shoulder.
UTMB?
Yeah, it'll be there. You can count on it.
Brilliant. That we can rest assured that this is going to happen now. And my only advice that would be don't pair it with a moustache, because that
Yeah, I haven't had a moustache for a while. Yeah.
the mullet moustache combo, I see a lot of that in Australia, and
Is that coming from experience or is that
I I have a moustache, and I had thought when I came to Australia, I might try the mullet. I might see what the mullet looks like. But having now seen the people that have the moustache mullet combo, I mean, it would be like walking around
pedo?
Swansea being called Jones. Like you do, you'd be like a dime a dozen. There'd be so many people like you. So I'm
Okay.
not doing it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Roach or Coop, is the beef real? Do you prescribe to either, and what do you think?
I spoke to Coop last year, at the end of last year. Um, haven't had much interaction with Roach. I don't know. Is the beat like what was it? It was like the gels or what was this issue? I don't know.
Well, it's been quiet recently, but Coop was always like biting at Roche's tail, I think, with some
Oh,
jealousy
oh
of
yeah.
his results, and he just doesn't like how he comes across.
It's just like market share. Cooper's a businessman, like the most ruthless businessman in trail, I reckon. So they're both competing with each other, really, aren't they? That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Closing question, and it's not running related. Give me some guilty pleasures. Like, what are you doing? What are you listening to? What are the things that mildly embarrass you that you don't want to tell anyone that you're going to now tell people on the podcast?
A guilty pleasure. This sounds really lame. It's like, I mean, if it was actually guilty, I don't know, when you're on a long run and
You
no, I
feel
can't
that
say that.
you've already failed. You've already it's running related. Come on, spit it out. Let's hear.
Have you ever had a wank on a long run where you're
No,
like out for like,
I haven't.
no,
No.
where, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure, right? So yeah, I think I've done that once before, and it backfired quite badly when some mountain bikers came past me, and I was standing behind a tree. But
Just
yeah,
just pure
there you
love in the
go.
outdoors.
Yeah, well, if it's like a 6 hour long run, and suddenly you don't want it distracting you for the rest of the run, got to get it out and just crack on with it. Guilty
Not
pleasure. There you
knocked it
go.
out, moved on, enjoyed the rest of the run.
Exactly.
I can't think of a better way of finishing the show on that. I mean, it was absolute perfection. I did say in the Trail Talk WhatsApp, join in or catch up on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple because Tom is a loose cannon. You were thankfully a much better guest than you were on some of the other podcasts that I've heard, and we didn't go down that route. We kept it with some proper questions, and we thank the audience for asking them, and we had a bit of fun with it. So, Tom, thanks for joining, and we'll catch you soon.
Very good. Thanks very much, Sharon. It was fun.
All right. For everyone else that's listening or viewing, you can replay it on YouTube, you can replay it on Spotify, you can replay it on Apple, and you can also replay it on Instagram. But enjoy the rest of your week and peace.